hello. I'm sure that with all of the channelers and energy healers out there, you'd like to know what the right channeler would be like for you, because there's a lot of wrong channelers out there. And if you're going into this not knowing what you want, what's going to be right for you and what's not going to be right for you, how the heck are you supposed to pick the right kind of channeler? Now, the biggest question is, are all channelers clear channels? And are all energy healers clear channels? No. No, they are not. Because we are human and things get in the way, like trauma and limiting beliefs specifically. That is the biggest thing that gets in the way of being a clear channel. And just your own life experiences and the own lessons you need to learn, those will always get in the way of you being a clear channel for your clients. I always recommend being your own channeler for this reason, because no one knows you and no one knows what resonates for you besides you. Like, you can see absolutely anybody, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their life and their belief system is going to be right for you, And when it comes to developing your own sense of self and your own sense of, well, what do I believe in this world? What do I agree with? What resonates with me? That's all about you, babes. That's all about you. It's not about anybody else. It's about you. And so that's why it's so important for you to know who you are and to be in touch with your intuition. However, something that a channeler can help you with is along that journey of developing your intuition to be your own channeler and to be a channeler for someone else. When it comes to going on the journey, right? The whole point of seeing an energy healer or a channeler is to give you a bigger picture than what you're seeing, right? Because even the whole point of having spirit guides is to give you a bigger picture, because your guides cannot force you to make a choice. They cannot they cannot tell you what the right choice is. They can only show you the bigger picture, and then from there, you make that choice. And so the point of a channeler is to basically just show you what the options are, and then for you to have that knowledge to move your life from there. And channelers show you what path you're going in, what path you could be going in, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the point of seeing a channeler. The job of a channeler is to just give you an option. That's it. And channelers and energy healers are resources, and they are tools to help you heal forward. But they are not things that can come and save you. And so some red flags to look out for when it comes to channelers is that they claim that they can fix or save you. That is so false, and I'm going to tell you why. You are in control of whether or not you heal, and it is your choice whether or not you heal. The purpose of an energy healer or channeler is to give you and to give your consciousness the acceptance it needs to allow your energy to flow freely, but you are the one that allows it to flow freely. They are not the ones that are moving that energy. They are simply listening to your energy and giving it the room to flow wherever it wants to go. That's the whole truth behind it. But if they're like, oh no, I'm doing this to you, that's a red flag, because they do not have the power in themselves to move your energy. You are the only one that has the power to move your energy. And you can move, you're the only person that can allow your energy to move. and you can move the energy in your space. But when it comes to consenting to energy healing, you saying, yeah, I'm okay with this moving, I'm okay with the resistance being lifted, that's up to you. When you've gotten so used to being out of control of your life and so like disempowered in your life because of trauma, when someone says and when someone makes the grand promise that they can fix or save you, it's like a really, really, really attractive thing for you. And you're like, oh my God, this is going to be my end all fix all. This is going to fix me. I'm no longer broken after this. Like, but it's just, you're not broken to begin with. And making the claim that they can fix you of all your problems is just going to lead you to reinforce those codependency wounds. And that's not going to be helpful for you. And it's going to disempower you from letting yourself take that leap forward in your life to like go like, yeah, I can do this. Because you're always going to be like, I can't do this. If that person is like, I'm going to save you, you're always going to be like, I can't do this. I'm never going to be able to do this. I need someone else out there to come in and help me because I'm helpless. But when you go like, you know what? I'm choosing to do this because I love myself. I'm choosing to do this because I want to do this. Do you see the difference in that energy? Do you see how that lifts you up? Do you see how that empowers you? Do you see how that goes like, yeah, I can do this? Do you see the strength in that? Because you have free will, right? You have free will. No guide, no being, be that physical or energetic, has the power to change your life but you. Because you are in charge of your life, you're in charge of your energy, you are in charge of your body, you are in charge of your life, you are in charge. You're in charge. Another red flag is you leave feeling more uncertain, more scared, more disempowered, more hateful towards yourself and others, and more stuck than when you first initially walked in when it comes to taking action in your life. The goal of any spiritual session is to offer you a path and a greater sense of confidence and trust in yourself. And if you don't leave feeling like you can trust yourself more than when you first walked in, that is a sign that you need to find a different energy healer or channeler because they are unable to give you what you need. It's also really important to acknowledge that if you do leave feeling this way, it's most likely because they are accidentally, unintentionally giving you their pain. And when channelers are human, energy healers are human, and sometimes channelers and energy healers don't always know or want to acknowledge their pain, and so they leave that stuff within them in so much resistance. And because there's so much resistance within them, it ends up just going out in every other direction, and it ends up getting passed out to everybody else, because that's what happens when you don't take care of your own emotions and when you don't take responsibility and accountability for your feelings. Everybody else feels them and everybody else takes them on because you're not being responsible for yourself. And if they are giving that to you, that means they're not doing the own internal work to be a safe energy healer or channeler for you. And so that is a huge red flag. Them not doing the work is the biggest red flag you could ever have and experience and witness in a channeler. I just want you to know this right on, like right now. Do not go see them again if they are not doing the proper work needed to be safe for you. Now, this red flag is a little bit on like Like, shit, like, is this actually a red flag? Yes, it's a red flag. That's kind of like a, oh, is this really happening kind of thing? Like, is this correctly not correct? Yes, it is factually incorrect. Is that they allow you to talk about your situation in depth and just let you go off about it. The purpose of an energy healer or channeler is to read you for you. And when you do that, you end up controlling the reading out of fear of them being wrong. And a lot of people view channelers and energy healers as like this all-knowing, like, godly entity, because a lot of channelers and energy healers portray themselves to be that way online and in the media. I'm going to tell you this right now. And it's going to be upsetting to so many channelers that have this massive God complex. They're not God. They are a human being. They are not all-knowing. They are not perfect. They are not this all-encompassing, all-knowing thing. No. They're human. They're like a human being, okay? And the act of being a human being and the act of being an animal, the act of being a plant, is a spiritual experience in nature. And it is a divine experience in nature. However, when you go into this whole other category of, no, I am God, that's really just them wanting to feel important in life because they don't feel like they don't trust themselves and they don't feel important to themselves, to other people in their own lives. And that is a massive red flag, is that they do not trust themselves as well. If they don't trust themselves, they are not going to be safe and they're not going to be trustworthy for you to trust them. Because if they can't even trust themselves, why the heck should you trust them? And that's just a general rule of thumb for any human being or any animal or any being in your life. If they cannot trust themselves, get rid of them. Okay? Because there's a reason why they cannot trust themselves. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And it's okay if the reader is wrong and if the message doesn't resonate for you. It doesn't resonate for you, and that's probably the wrong reader for you. And you need to let them be wrong, because they're going to be wrong. And they aren't this whole like godly thing. They're a human, they're capable of being wrong, and they will most definitely end up being wrong. And that's okay. And the biggest green flag is probably that a channeler is all right with being wrong. And they say this might not be for you, and that's okay. It might, because like sometimes some messages are for the channeler and they're not quite for you. And but sometimes they're for both of you, and sometimes they're just for you. It's kind of weird like that. But yeah, if they're wrong, let them be wrong. And if the message doesn't resonate for you, try a different energy healer or channeler. And if you're also an incredibly like self-aware person, like physically, emotionally speaking, and all that shit, and they say something like really just like out the like really out there, like you know that the root, like you know what the root cause of your issues are, like where that's situated, but then they mention like, oh yeah, the root cause of something else is something totally different than what you already know it is, it's probably not right either. Like you could still have issues in that area, but you know that it doesn't originate from that specific area, you know. Now let's look for some green flags, because there's a lot of green flags. And so big green flag is that they respect your boundaries and they respect you in the session. And so what this looks like is them checking in on you to make sure you're understanding what they're saying and checking to make sure that it's resonating. And they make it really clear to you that you can stop and pause, you can pause within the session, and you can stop the session altogether at any point in the session. And they really make it a point that you're in the driver's seat when it comes to the session, because your healing is in your hands and on your terms and no one else's. And the job of the channeler and energy healer is to offer you different tools, but it's up to you to decide if you use them. And so they also make that clear too, and they don't pressure you into like doing certain things if you're not comfortable with those things. And so they check in on you and go, wow, I can't talk right now, apparently. Okay. They check in on you and say, hey, how does this feel for you? Does this work? And they make it clear that like you can tell them what's going on inside of you. If you're not okay with something, they make it clear that they want to hear that, because you feeling safe is their top priority. And that's what the right channeler will do, but the wrong channeler will not care about that, and they will just go in because they want to do that like that, and they would do that for themselves, but that might not necessarily be what you need or what you want, because you know your needs. And so they're going to make sure that they're encouraging you to voice your needs, and they're encouraging you to discover your needs and to discover your wants. That is the biggest green flag, is that they open you up to a greater discovery of like, hey, how do you feel about trying this new thing? Instead of just going, you're going to do this. They could say like, oh, you could try this and see how it goes. But you don't have to. It's not a forceful thing. Energy healing and channeling, it's not supposed to be forceful, but if they're making it forceful, run the other way, please. So another green flag is the channeler, energy healer will challenge your limiting beliefs. And the right channeler and healer will be reinforcing your growth and expansion instead of reinforcing your fears and limiting beliefs. And so how they do that is by loving and accepting you unconditionally, without reason, just because you're you. They offer you that fully accepting space with all of your wounds, with all of your shit, with all of your trauma, with all of your anger, with everything you've got in your heart, all the pain, everything. Just because you're you, they will offer you that safety. And that's what any safe human being will do, not just a practitioner, but the right people in your life will also do that too for you. And because like no one can heal in a conditionally loving, conditionally safe, and conditionally accepting environment. Like that's so difficult to heal, and it's impossible to heal where you're not fully loved, right? And they also challenge your limiting beliefs by offering you a different perspective or like method or approach to your current circumstances in your life. And those are really huge, because they, when someone offers something new, it stretches your mind, and your mind becomes more flexible, and instead of just seeing the situation from like this tiny little opening like that, like tiny little opening like this, you begin to look at the situation from all angles. And when you can only see something like out of a tiny little hole, you can't see the whole picture. And channelers and energy healers offer you the bigger picture, because they aren't in the same stories as you, right? Because we all have these stories that we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, based upon the experiences we had as a child. But those stories aren't real most of the time, and they aren't true. And so it's important to know that, and to acknowledge that we deserve more than what we were taught we deserved as children, and we deserve more than what we think we do, and the right healer will be working with your nervous system and not just with your logical thinking mind. Because a trauma response is a physiological, involuntary response. It's like anxiety attacks, right? You can't think your way out of an anxiety attack. Can you? Can you go like, you can be like, and you can be like, I'm not anxious, I'm not anxious, I'm not anxious. You're not gonna fucking be not anxious like that. That's so silly. You're gonna just keep being anxious even if you keep telling yourself you're not anxious. But when you're working through trauma, it's important to acknowledge your nervous system and your body and what kind of responses it will give you based upon like the pain it's experienced. And it's important to regulate it and bring it back down so that you can let those feelings flow, right? And another green flag is that they create a neutral and accepting environment for you. And this is because you heal with connection, and connection can only happen in neutral and accepting environments. Because if you're like constantly like anxious or fearful or just like upset, like you can't have connection that way if you're always just like out of the peaceful state, you know? And when you're in like a neutral, like flowing state, you're really peaceful. And when you're so used to being like in this like kind of, well, that doesn't look quite right. Okay, anyways, when you're always like used to this like forceful like back and forth thing, it's like it's not gonna, it's like the experience of peace is gonna feel difficult to maintain at first, but the more you keep choosing peace gradually, the more comfortable you'll be and the easier it'll get. The more you keep doing that, and because choosing peace is a practice, and you can only choose peace if someone is showing you what that looks like. And you know, kids, right? They can't actually regulate themselves without another nervous system with them. And so kids can't even regulate themselves without someone with them, you know? And when you've experienced so much childhood trauma, you're still in that same mental state of, well, I need someone to teach me how to do this. And if the person that's teaching you how to do this doesn't know how to do this for themselves, how can they do that for you? They can't, which is why you experienced so much pain as a child, because your parents didn't know how, or your caregivers or your guardians didn't know how to be an accepting and neutral environment for you. And energy can only be in two states. It can either be in resistance or in acceptance. And when energy is in resistance, it creates so many problems physically and emotionally for our bodies. And when energy is in resistance, we're more susceptible to getting diseases, we're more susceptible to getting infections, our immune system is down. But when it's in acceptance, our immune system is heightened, and the immune system is like our physical boundary to germs. But if we're always in resistance, our emotional boundaries are also low. And the more you become, like the more you flow and become peaceful, the more strong your boundary and defense systems become physically and just like emotionally too. And all energy is inherently neutral. I know there's like this thing going around where you see this like frequency chart of every emotion. That's complete BS, because emotions are energy, and no emotion, belief, or energy frequency is good or bad. And labeling something as good or bad and judging it as good or bad will just create more resistance to that feeling. Even though all of the feelings we experience as human beings, be that anger, sadness, frustration, annoyance, hatred, like those are all normal human beings. If you're experiencing a feeling, it's because it's natural. And it's natural to experience it. It might be scary, but it's still natural, and it's still a normal feeling because it's happening to you. You know? And wounds cannot be healed if there is so much resistance and shame just pounding it down, just like how are you supposed to heal a wound that keeps getting ripped open? Like you can't. That keeps getting infected with gunk, with shame. You can't heal a wound that way. You heal a wound by like tending to it, by being nurturing, by being caring, by being compassionate with your skin. Like you give them, like, you put some ointments on it, right, with your skin. You put a Band-Aid over it to keep it protected and safe. It's the exact same way with our emotional wounding. You nurture this wound. You love the wound with your heart. You give it time. You're patient with it. You're gentle with it. You don't like pick the scab or anything to let it fully heal. You know? And when you judge your feelings as good or bad, none of them can actually be released. Because when you do that, you become so scared and you're like, oh God, what if this is like I can't fucking be feeling like this. Like, this isn't okay if I feel like this. It's like, that's not true. That's not true. It's totally okay to feel whatever you may feel. You need to feel your feelings for them to be released. And that has been my video for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more content like this, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment down below for any other videos you'd like me to do about this kind of stuff. And if you'd like more content, feel free to check out my Instagram. I'm going to drop the handle down below, and I'm going to, it's also in my about the channel section on my page. Same thing with my TikTok. I make shorter videos on there. And yeah, anyways, see you next week.